Hi, everyone. I am Wendy Watson with TBR Spiritual Health, and this is To Be Revealed live with Miss Deb Drummond. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have her here. And this is an open space for people to tell their spiritual stories and their journeys. So I ask that you listen and with an open heart and an open mind. It takes a lot of courage and vulnerability for people to share their spiritual stories. And so I want to create that space and hold that space for our guest today. So without ado, I would love for Ms. Drummond to take a moment and introduce herself.
Oh, wow. Well, I have to say, thank you very much. I've been on a few shows, and no one has ever asked their audience to take space or make space or allowance, which is lovely because I love to talk to the audience when I'm on my show, either, this way or, I'm sure we do a little telepathic. I'm sure you do as well. So happy to be here. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you. And we've been having so much fun together, and that's not going to stop. I'm so excited for your event next year. We're doing all sorts of things to plan around it. But yeah, my name is Deb Drummond, and I live in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I know there's more than one in Vancouver in the world, so that's where I am. And I am a proud mom of two really cool humans, right? I have a daughter who's 31 who has her own two cool humans. And then I have a son, 21, so Chloe and Ocean. And I would say I've been in entrepreneurship since I was in my 20s. I'm a solid 5 plus. So I've been doing this for a good amount of time. And someone asked me today, like, what was it like? Like, was it scary going from what you did before to entrepreneurship? And you know what? That's not part of my story. I started being an entrepreneur in my 20s. And so it might be a little scary when I decide to shift gears a little bit. But so that's me. I'm a serial entrepreneur and do a lot of business based on large messages that tell me what to do.
Yeah, that's awesome because we all need those messages. We all need that guidance. So I'd
Mhm.
love to start out every episode with one question.
Okay.
What does spirituality mean to you?
Mm. For me, I think it's a way of thinking. It's a way of being. I don't think that I am spiritual than not spiritual. I think that I can accentuate that aspect of what's already part of me. But I think for me at this stage of this stage of the party, in my world of my personal development and exploration of my spiritual aspect, I think it's kind of an embodiment for me. If I had to say what is spirituality to me, it's just an embodiment of understanding that part of my life and how it plays out. So,
I love that.
yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the juicy stuff.
All right. That took all of 6 minutes. This is Wendy, people. She's like, let's get right to it.
Yeah, I like to just go for it.
All right.
What was your household? What was your childhood like? And how did spirituality come into being raised?
Oh, okay. Well, I was raised in a house with no form of organized spirituality or religion. I never heard the word God. There was definitely no chimes, aromatherapy, bells, any of that kind of stuff. That wasn't part of it at all. We celebrated Christian holidays, so Christmas, Easter and Christmas. So I would say we followed probably more Christian principles. But other than that, there wasn't a picture of God or, God darn it, that kind of thing was said around the house. It was interesting. I lived with my mom and my dad for a short time, and then he found his way elsewhere. Ooh, there's a reframe. He found his way elsewhere. My grandmother, my aunt lived with us. So my mom and her sister, single parents raising kids. I came a lot from not have. I understand not have a lot. And then, yeah, just a single mom and nothing to do with spirituality, and really not at all through my whole life. Even now, having a conversation, I don't have spiritually based conversations. I think the most spiritual that maybe my mom has leaned into is things happen for a reason, but it's certainly not part of my genetic tool.
Right. Okay. So I know that on your bio it says that you are spiritually inclined. What does that look like for you? Because, to me, whether you're atheist or Muslim or Islam or omniist or whatever that looks like for you is individual, is unique. To
Mm,
me, it's still a form of a spiritual belief system.
mm.
So what does that look like for you? What does that mean to you to be spiritually inclined and be an entrepreneur and all of those things?
Yeah. Yeah. It just really means that I don't know everything, to be honest with you. It's like I'm spiritually inclined, meaning that I'm the inclination that I
Mhm.
have around how I make decisions, why I make decisions. I lean in that direction. I mean, I had a private health studio and I had 18 staff and they were all intuitives. You know what I mean? Like our staff meeting was darn good. We sat in a circle. I worked in aromatherapy and massage and crystals, and people walking, my staff would walk by and go, "Oh, I have a feeling I need to tell you this." You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. So that was cool. Did that for a lot of years. So I think I lean in the direction that understanding that when I make a decision or I go forward with something, prime example, my son just, called me and said, I didn't get my check, his tax rebate from the government. And he was on the phone with them and he's like, hey, they said that they sent it out and someone cashed it and oh my goodness and blah, blah, blah. And they're doing an investigation. And I'm like, cool. And then he's on the phone and he's rambling on about it. And I'm like, here's where God kicks in. I have a feeling by the time that check comes in, you're going to be so grateful that that money showed up at that time for that reason. And if you had had it before, you might have spent it, but you need it then. And he's like, okay, you know what I mean? So I think
Mhm.
spiritually inclined means I explore the opportunity or the possibility that what I'm doing in my own little world here with my own little mind and my own little abilities may be maybe not the whole picture.
Yes, got it. I love that. So how did you go from not having that kind of upbringing to bringing that into your life somehow, somewhere?
So the first time I ever even could the concept, I mean, I think that I've always been someone that has vast ability to see
Mhm.
because I kind of felt a little different in my house. And it was funny, I was just rereading the chapter that I wrote in the 262 book because someone wanted to have me send it. And I thought, oh, I should read what I wrote again. And I wrote about how at 6 years old, I was kind of looking at the house I was raised in, and I'm like, I'm going to be doing it different. I'm going to be doing it differently. But so my girlfriend Gayleen, her name was Gayleen Black, and she walked up to me in elementary school, and she said, um, "Would you like to come to church with me on Sunday?" And I'm like, now I'm trying to think. Maybe I was grade 4, grade five probably. And I said, I don't know. And she's like, the bus driver gives us ice cream. I go, let me go ask my mom. So I went home and asked my mom, like, can I go to church with Gayleen on Sunday? The bus driver gives ice cream. She's like, sure. So I went to church with her on Sunday and I got there and they're like, okay, everyone pull out their Bible. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Everyone's got this book. And they're like, oh, you don't have a Bible? I go, no, I don't have a Bible. They're like, oh my goodness, we have to give you a Bible. And I still have that Bible. Right. I still have that
Yes.
Bible.
Yeah.
So I think actually I just passed it on to my girlfriend. And obviously, but my first, and then some people might say my first spiritual inkling was when I was 8. And I had a very big seeing. I was doing a sleepover at my cousin's, and they lived in this big heritage home. And I woke up like in the middle of the night. God knows what time it was. Huh, it's funny. God knows what time it was. And I woke up and I saw literally, like, I don't tell this story very often, but there was like Jesus in his full form, just hanging out at the end of the bed, like full form. But it actually drove me in the other direction. It scared me so
Sure.
much. I was too young to see something like that. It scared me so much that I couldn't go into a church. I couldn't look at that kind of picture. I couldn't anything. Was not a welcoming. And funny enough, I talked to my cousin about it, I don't know, 30 years later. And she
Mhm.
goes, I know exactly what that is. I go, there's no way you know what it is. She goes, I see it all the time still. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it was meant for you. You know what I mean? And then it was when I was I had made a big decision in my life, and I decided to go from rock and roll music land over to the world of personal development. And I was talking to some people, and I was doing some therapy and doing some counseling, and they're like, you might want to embrace this concept of a higher power, something other than yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, that's really interesting. I didn't have a belief, but I didn't have a belief, right? I didn't believe in it, but I did not believe in it. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. And they were like, well, what feels comfortable to you? I go, I could get my head around nature. They're like, let's start there. And then, I got into holistic work and holistic massage. And truly, when I started my holistic practice, I was doing massage. Like I took my course, I did my thing, blah, 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 blah. And then as I started doing massage, I was getting massive psychic downloads. And I heard people talking to me and literally seeing people's guides around the table talking. Now you got to think this was 30 years ago. I lost my beans. I called my teacher and I was like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe this is a flashback from my rock and roll days. I have no idea. Like I was freaking out. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And I'm like, not really. And I didn't tell anybody. Like I couldn't tell anybody. Like I don't know, like, yeah, it was over 20 years ago, 25 years ago. No one, like, there was no Starbucks or Lululemon or cell phones or whatever the freight, right? So then I just kept it to myself. I talked to my girlfriend who was Christian. I was like, she's like, well, let me try to help you. You know what I mean? And she was great help. But there was a woman across the street and she's like, hey, and I had my daughter, like, it was a big neighborhood thing. And she's like, hey, my girlfriend gave me 2 free passes to go see this psychic. Would you like to go? I go, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. Because I didn't know what was happening to me, but I didn't like it. Like, it didn't feel comfortable. I mean, And then she said, oh no, it'll be so great. She literally talked me into it. And I had never seen a psychic. I didn't know what a psychic was. I mean, the most I knew about psychics, honestly, was Whoopi Goldberg. You know what I mean? And whatever it was with, Demi Moore. Like literally, it was not part of my world at all. Now I was doing crystals and aromatherapy and massage and meditation and all of that. 100% part of my world. No one had talked to me about, you might hear some voices. So I go to this woman who's a psychic. I literally walk into her office and she's wearing, I remember to this day, she's wearing a dress and it had these big red flowers on them. And my thought in my head, not to be rude, I was like, ooh, I don't know if that's the dress for her. Like it was just this really funny. Like, I'm not sure that's the dress for her. And then I thought, oh my goodness, she's gonna know what I'm thinking. I mean, honestly, I was in my 20s. I just didn't know. And so we sat down and she started telling me who she was and beautiful. Actually, I can remember her name now. It's Teresa. And it was all really lovely. And she looks at me and she goes, oh, someone's a little psychic and you're having a bit of problem with that, are you? And I was like, and that was the first time I was able to take a breath of fresh air. And then I went for a massage at a colleague's because, I used to massage her. She'd massage me. We all do. So I went to her place for a massage. And halfway through the massage, she goes, do you mind if I stop massaging you and tell you what I'm hearing? And I was like, I almost burst into tears. I'm like, oh my God. I go, does it happen to you too? She's like, yeah. And so that was the first time that I started to get comfortable with this whole thing that was happening.
That's amazing. It is something that's really hard to talk about, especially 20, 30 years ago. I think we're just now in the last 5 years, maybe, where it's become more societally accepted to be able to talk more openly about these gifts that we have or these experiences that we have, and vocabulary like downloads and intuition and dreams and stuff like that is definitely becoming more prevalent. Or maybe it's just the people I'm surrounded by.
No, it really is. It really is. There's, I was talking to a woman this morning. We're both part of a book that's been put together on people that have used their spiritual intuitiveness to have successful business. I'm like, okay, so there's people that are gathering that, and it's intuition and feeling, and I had a sense, and I don't think it's so unusual, particularly in the world of entrepreneurship, for sure, because you have to be a little bit creative and have to think about that. Some people, like you mentioned, their messages for them are messages from their, different deities, whatever that is. I
Mhm.
mean, and some people it's more universal, but I think we have definitely passed the concept that we are not all just who we see in the mirror.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So I know that a lot of people experience in some way, shape, or form uh, that barrier of being able to talk about some of our experiences,
Hmm.
whether it's of a gender nature, a spiritual nature, religious nature. I think that we all have some of those inclinations at some point. Um, can you share a little bit more about how you felt and how you were able to open up a little bit more once you felt safe by experiencing some of these other people that was experiencing the same things that you were?
Hmm. Well, I think I felt relieved because it wasn't norm, it
Mhm.
wasn't the norm. And then as I started to get more comfortable with it, but also because I chose it to do my work, it
Yeah.
wasn't like, so if I was having spiritual experiences over here in my personal world, then it would be spiritual experiences in my personal world.
Yeah.
But because I was in the massage business, because the spiritual, I'm like, oh, look at there's other people at the massage table other than me, because it was making itself so well down known, and I was hearing things and seeing things and all of that. I don't really think I had much choice but to start to accept it inside. And then, at the time, I was married to somebody who came from England, and conversations around ghosts and those kind of things were not unusual there. I live in Canada, it's North America. It wasn't, it's
Yeah.
not part of our history with our castles and our abbeys down the street, so it was
Right.
not so unusual there. So that was comforting, and then so you find your tribe, right? You
Yep.
do find your tribe. I was introduced to a gentleman who I was able to talk to about it, even from like a spiritual counseling standpoint, like what can I do and how can I do, and all that. I mean, I taught people how to energetically protect themselves for massage and those kind of things,
Yep.
mostly because it's tiring if you don't have it together and you can't separate people's emotions. But so I think I was just doing some coaching with him, and over time, but honestly, Wendy, for a long time of my practice, we were 27 years, we had two brochures. I mean, two brochures. There was one we did massage and facials and reflexology. I mean, that's when I started reflexology was woo woo. Like they were like,
Yes.
ah.
Yes, it was.
So it was that. And then slowly but surely over the course of 20 years, we started to be able, but I remember, I used to work on doctors from the hospital. And I remember one doctor saying to me, you're not into that whole like, you know, woo-woo stuff is how he called it, and he
Yeah.
gave a description, and I'm thinking that's my next client, dude. No, absolutely, I'm good, I do my thing, so even there was people that you had to, it's almost like pull out a different brochure for. I
Hmm.
was thinking you obviously haven't been on the website, but I remember it being a very important decision, like if we put this stuff on the website, some of our clients aren't going to come back.
Right.
And so we slowly but surely started to adapt that for people and having meditation classes along with aromatherapy classes. And we had to really, it was very pioneering, kind of painful. I don't know why the
Sure.
universe always sticks me in these damn pioneering spots, but they
Because you're a
have me
pioneering
blowing out
woman.
some karma. I don't know what I did. But, it's like, but it was, yeah, no, it was a long decision and it took time and you had to admit to it. Even my daughter, so my daughter is a powerful tea leaf reader. And it just came to her. I used to catch her in her bedroom making concoctions. Once I found a concoction that her and her girlfriend had done against their ex-boyfriends. I was like, okay, you guys, like you can't be making potions and they're like, eh. Anyway, so she was a powerful tea leaf reader. And then when she started dating someone whose family that was just not their life at all, they wouldn't even know what to do with that. She's like, she stopped doing it. And then when I first met his parents, whom she's married to him now, to his
Mhm.
parents, she said, do not mention that you're a psychic, that we're like, that's just not going to be part of this conversation. And I'm like, okay, I mean,
Mhm.
they've been married for 10 years now. So if I wanted to, I could talk about it. But
Right.
yeah. So yes, it was a decision at each time you let that information, you didn't go to
Yeah.
a business meeting and say, hi, you know. This is what
Yeah.
your friend's saying that's hanging over your left shoulder. You're just like,
So going through those different challenges, once you've embraced it, and then
mhm.
going through those different marketing challenges as an entrepreneur, how did you use what you embraced and the skills that you have and these people surrounding your table? How did you embrace that in order to get through or navigate all the changes that you had to go through and allow it to seep out a little bit at a time?
Mhm. I mean, I think I just had a really clear understanding that the world wasn't ready, and
Mm-hmm.
that I would show up when it showed up, and you choose who you tell things to. Now I would say to somebody, um, I remember someone, and I used to do, when people used to come to me for a massage, and I'd put this beautiful warm compress on, and as I rolled it off their compress, I said, just take a deep breath and let go of your day. And then there was one woman where I rolled it off and I said, take a deep breath and let go of your J. And she looked at me and I go, oh, sorry, Day. She goes, no, no, I've just been sitting here deciding whether to break up with Jay or not. And I'm like, oh, okay. So sometimes it would show up and I'd say, well, I have this sense and I can, I'm not going to tell you to break up with your boyfriend today, but I just have this sense. And so once you start to kind of know who you can have those conversations with,
Mm-hmm.
and then it went into full on, I mean, I have a website. I had, a website for intuitive services, a website for all the massage that we did. And when we were building and revamping our website, which is launching as we speak, some of the conversations we had were, now that you're so well known in business and so well known in media, because my universe, my spirit told me I needed to shift over here and get behind the stage and help people move in front of the stage. I mean, I cried for a long time when I went from something I loved to something I was being told to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, do you want that to come off your website? And I go, it's really interesting, right? So I said, I think what we can do is put something on there like, my love of wealth and health, and this is so important, and this is what makes someone good in business, is taking care of themselves, and these are things that I used to do. So you can click through there and you can still see Opal Professional Intuitive. And
Mm-hmm.
so people that know me, if they called and said, hey, can you blah blah blah, like, sure, can you do something or help me with my book title or whatever, because predominantly, yes, I did intuitive services for all areas, but mostly business, you know,
Okay.
and it was really quite interesting. So I got flown into Turks and Caicos to sit on a board for a big real estate deal that they were pitting to get reinvested for. And we're talking a considerable amount of money. And I was just someone that was there that was designated as someone to be in the room. But my whole job was to be a psychic at that table.
Mm-hmm.
So we won, which they were very excited for, and I was very happy. And they said it was like having someone that was in their private meetings. Now I wasn't, spying or anything. I was just getting intuitive ideas. Or people will have me, like, I need to hire somebody. Can you be on the? So I used to do a lot of business things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's there, but it's there to represent a part of me.
Yeah.
But when I stepped into that full time and released those business cards and gave those business cards and told people what I do, at the time, I remember saying to people, because the news was out that a lot of presidents from countries, not just my country, prime ministers or your country, that relying on the information of the stars it was considered mathematics and a part of
Mm-hmm.
many cultural decisions from a government standpoint. So I used to talk about how many presidents have gone to people that are astrologists and what have you, and just let them know. And as the word started to get out about my skills, the word started to get out about other skills. There was TV shows. I had two directors call me years ago that wanted to do a pilot on intuitive, because I kind of had a lot of stuff to do with real estate. So they were like, hey, that's kind of interesting. So I think the world started to pick up on it. And then, of course, reality TV of intuitives and this kind of thing, and spiritualists getting more well known and writing books, and all of that started to happen at the same time that we were running our business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because we did holistic treatments, it wasn't too far of a stretch, but it definitely was ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow, till that I actually could go and say, this is what I do. And then that business, as you know, because you play in that world, is a lot of word of mouth.
Yes.
So I didn't really have to go do big, you do a session for someone and it changes their life. You tend to get people to refer other people, but I didn't have to do. One of the things that I did that was a big deal that really made me nervous at first is I used to have 2 radio shows. And so people would call in from all over the world. Oh my gosh, I think it's talk radio. And so that's nerve-wracking a little bit because they're calling in and you are giving them their answer right then and there. So they're asking
Lord.
questions and you're giving you it's like you're on the hot spot. And so there was that radio show, and then there was another radio show that was called Small Business Talk. And what it did is it did the news of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they wanted is they wanted a psychic intuitive economic report of every single province that we had. Yeah. And so every week I was doing this, spiritual economic report for every single province.
Wow.
Yeah. So those kind of things are nerve wracking because, you want to be right. And
Well, you
interestingly
want them
enough,
to be right because it's
yeah, you
just
want them to be right. You're like, okay, let's put your business hats on today, right? So, so I think I got niched a lot. Again, if someone came into, I did a lot of
yeah.
mediumship stuff, and if people wanted to have that conversation, they'll find me. I used to just say people will find me. But I also get a lot around business. That's where I say God's got me a lot. It's just serving people and helping them make decisions around business and stuff like
Well,
that.
it sounds like you serve from service of others versus service of self. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's what a lot of the theologies around the world are based out of, which I think is beautiful, right? We serve others, and in return, just even the law of attraction or the law of reciprocity, right? Or even the laws of manifestation, you get what you give. So if you're in service of others, that's what you get back, which I think is beautiful. Let's take a step back just a moment. And the moment that you were called to do something else other than what you loved, and you mentioned that you cried through that, what helped you to get through that, or what led you to go ahead and follow the callings that you were getting versus what you wanted to do and what you were really enjoying doing?
Well, I think when when you get to, and really it is a get to, like, ooh, I gotta decide. But, you hear people that are in jobs that they don't like, and they're like,
Mhm.
it's tough for them to get out for whatever reason because they're tied to the, retirement fund or whatever the deal is. I don't have that experience, so I can talk about it, but I've never talked in it. When you do something that you love, like, look at, you're healing people.
Yeah.
You're massaging people, you're intuitive with people are like, oh my gosh, that's the pinnacle. And I thought it was my pinnacle too. And then you build this practice and you've got staff and you've got, you have all this affirmation and confirmation, and you're responsible for people to have paycheck to feed family and all those things. I take it really seriously.
Sure.
And when it started to become clear a little bit that, I also brought in another business that I was doing. So I can do 2 things at once. So I brought in this beautiful business, and I was traveling around the world opening up these products, brain products and skin products for a company, and breaking different grounds. And it was getting really successful and really successful and really successful. And it was getting to the point where I had one foot in 2 really successful buckets. And what was I going to do? I could only stretch myself so much here. Things had been flipped around with the economy. It was 2008, 9, 10. We know that North America, 8, 9, 10 was, had its considerations. And so there was also this whole world of, in our industry, there was a company that people have probably used called Groupon. Groupon was hitting the market really hard because the economics were hitting hard. And so you had all of these people giving really discounted services. It wasn't a long-term fix. Everyone thought it was a long-term fix. So people reduced rates. Then you could never take them up because what you charge is so all this stuff was going on. I had colleagues of 20 years being in business like I was. That's like, I can't lower what I charge because I'm not doing this in the back room of my hairdressing shop. Like, this is what I do. I'm a coach. I'm a this. I'm a masseuse. I'm a practitioner. And so there was all this stuff going on economically. And then I had this really big successful experience going on over here. So it was love, success. Can I do that? All these things were going on in my mind. And then I had a really good friend of mine. He was the first millionaire under 30 in Canada.
Mhm.
He was no longer 30, but I called him and I said, I need to talk about this. And he goes, okay, this is how you need to scale your massage business if you want to stay doing what you're doing. And then you've got this over here. And what does that look like? And, I had 2 kids at the time. And we had just come through, I'm not an unfavorable divorce. And so there was a lot of stuff going on. And
Yep.
so I was trying to see what the right thing was to do. Okay, so I'm seeing what the right thing to do. I'm playing with it. It would break my heart to leave this. What would this look like? There's no guarantee. I was in between no guarantees.
Oof.
But 2 things that I was really good at and 2 things I really loved.
Right.
Me and my son were out at my aunt's for dinner, and we've got this thing called a Sky Train in Vancouver, which is interesting because I really never take the Sky Train. I don't know why we were on it, but we were. And we were coming back on the Sky Train, and we're sitting on it. It's kind of like, like a Sky Train, like a sea bus. Okay. So this woman comes on, and I look at her and I go, oh my God, she's gorgeous. She had opaque skin. She looked like Lorena McKinnon. If you like Celtic music, she had, red curly hair. And I was like, oh my God, she's gorgeous. And I was sitting beside my son, who maybe was 12 at the time. And he went like this, like he covered his nose and his face and he scrunched his face. I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes, she smells. Now I didn't smell it. And I go, Ocean, that's kind of rude, right? He's like, Mom, she smells. She came on and she smells. And so I looked closer, and sure enough, she had garbage bags, which I think were her belongings, right?
Mm.
And all of a sudden now it was 2008, 9, 10. I was going through a financial situation called a divorce. It was all very tight financially. And I remember this woman didn't ask for anything, but I remember looking in my wallet and I had one bill in there. And it was the kind of dollar bill that you think twice about spending. I was like, and things were super tight. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have a feeling to give it to her. She's not asking, but I have a feeling to give it to her. And I caught myself going, can I afford to do it? And then I said to myself, stop it. Stop it. Of course you can. Of course you can. Give your head a shake. So again, it wasn't a small bill. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it to her. And so my son goes walking out. So she's on the right-hand side. He goes walking past her and turns to the left and goes onto the platform. I do the same thing. I put money on her lap and I keep walking and I don't look back. As soon as we get out on the platform, I got tingles all over my body. And I heard, if you leave and go in this direction, you'll be able to do that every day. And when my decision's made, it doesn't mean I didn't cry on my couch. It doesn't mean that it wasn't scary. It doesn't mean that as I was packing up all my marketing materials for my massage business and my aromatherapy business and my jewelry business, I was packing them up and putting them in recycling, selling off things from the studio, closing the studio down. I mean, oh my gosh, I remember calling my friend. So I came home from that day where I packed everything up. I mean, there was some time between my revelation and my action. And I came home and I got into the shower and I forgot to take my clothes off. That's how distressed I was. I got into a shower and I realized I was standing there with my clothes on. I couldn't even take them off. I called my friend, who is my CEO friend, and I said, I packed everything up at the studio today. He said, where are you? I said, I'm at home. He said, get in a taxi and get here right now. He knew what was going to happen or what was happening. I said, I'm in my clothes. I just came out of a shower and I'm sitting on my couch soaking wet. He said, don't move. I'm on my way.
Oh,
yeah. So that's the truth of what can happen in a spiritual, blissful world, right?
Yes.
And then I went through it and I moved in this direction and I still have the studio today. And now my son has his business in there and, all glory be, sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's the story.
Yes. And it's a beautiful story. Not all callings are easy to move through. I have my own story about that that I share sometimes. And, it got lonely when I got called to move from Phoenix to Denver and totally change. And I had no idea what I was doing. And I left everybody that I knew. I knew it was the right thing to do, but it was really hard and it was really lonely because I didn't know anybody here. And so I love the fact that you had somebody that you could call on and be there for you, right? Which I think is perfect, right? They gave you everything that you needed, the resources, the messages, the intuition to be able to do what you do. So, how do you use that with in your business now? And
I mean,
all the women that you help in the 262 and all the other things that you have going on, how do you use
yeah.
that going forward?
I mean, I think that intuition and God and spirit and how I live my life is just truly how I live my life. So
Hmm.
almost asking that question would be like, how do you get up during the day? Decisions. I work, as you know, I'm very infrastructured. I
Yep.
teach top performance, reverse engineer, and strategic planning. As
Yep.
unspiritual and unsexy as that sounds, but it's not really. And
Yep.
and I get joy from that. So I think I mean, I'm a creative being. Sometimes I'm like, stop it, but because when you're creative, you're expansive. And if I had to go to a 12-step program for something, it would be hope and optimism. It's like, stop it. You think everything's going to work out. Like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
Amen. And by the way, I love that about you.
Yeah. Everyone's
Yeah.
like, don't change because if you do it, then I don't have to.
Right.
No, not that I don't have to, but it's
Right.
so I think I live by my gut decision for
Hmm.
sure, but
Hmm.
I also examine my gut decision. I think I went through a time in my life where I look at things, right? Like I look at things, and that's why I think even those of us that are creative and divine and move in divinity and decisions and what have you, it's good to have someone that you can run things off of, whether it's a coach, a friend, a trusted advisor, what have you. I mean, my
Hmm.
call this morning was to the CFO. You want to get a taste of reality? Talk to your CFO.
Right.
You know what I mean? There ain't no, you can pray all you like. She's gonna tell you what she tells you. She's like, what's this
So,
TV thing about? What's this TV thing about? What's that all about? Yeah, but I mean, I think it's just who I am,
mhm.
and it's a major part of my circle. Like, I tell people to build a board of directors, and those board of directors, like when I draw it out on a circle, some of them are like deities, like
Yeah.
you're on my team. I talk to them often. I'm like, okay, let's have a little conversation because I don't think you're listening. I have to
Right.
make a decision. What does it feel like? Look at
Yep.
the whole 262 thing. When I woke up after I had meditated the night before and I said, how many women need to be in this book? And I heard 262 when I woke up, I was like, forget you. Like I said no. I'm like, I'm pulling the free will card. There's a joker in every deck. And then the next day it was 263. And if I hadn't seen it on my own phone, I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Right. So it was
Yeah.
262 and then 263. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then 262. And then it felt like it's 262.
Okay.
So, you can say no.
Yeah.
You can say no. And I did say no. Um, but it is I think just like a lot of decisions, we sit there and we get a sense, right? Look at us.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
come into the project and we're hanging and we're talking and we're doing things because there was just a really great connection. And I know some people are meant to come into this project and embody it. Some people are they're like, ooh, I love the experience. It takes me to the next level. The media badges are great. And then off they go into their next evolution
Right.
and all of above, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, to
Well, it
answer your
sounds like you've been able to find a great way to be able to balance the strategy, the logistics, the analysis, and that aspect of things with the intuition and the messages and the creation and the inspiration, which to me I define as masculine and feminine energy.
hmm
Do you feel like you've really, because it sounds like it to me and what I know of you, that's how I see it. Would you claim the same thing that you have been able to blend that very well for yourself?
Oh yeah. One of my magical moments for me was when I found a book called Living in the Light by Shakti Gaiwan, and I was in high school. And I read, and she wrote about masculine energy, Shakti being one energy and Shiva being the other,
Hmm.
and putting
Yep.
one forward. And I was like, that's me. It's the natural place that my brain is happy. Like when
Okay.
I see things, I almost see it as a formula, like maybe how
Hmm.
an engineer has a brain. I'm not an engineer. I reverse engineer people and brains, but I don't like put things together and build elevators,
Right.
whatever. But I do love architecture. I love.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, look at how far the handle is to where you're walking. Oh, that's perfect. Like
Hmm.
that's kind of how I work. And I believe I'm very fortunate, right? I like
Yes.
a lot of times people go, oh, Deb will help wealthy. She helps make healers wealthy. because I help to formulate their dream into action steps and things like that. I think it's part of what I do and what I'm
Hmm.
supposed to do.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I'm fortunate enough to have the ideas and then to be
Hmm.
able to put them into action, or at least give them to somebody that can make that happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, as closing in on our show today, a what is one message that
Yeah.
you hope that the audience takes away from your story today, from your journey today? What's one thing that you want to leave them with?
Wow. From a place of spirituality, I think that it's, if you listen to what I shared, I came from a place where I didn't have access to that because I didn't have information.
Mhm.
And then when the information started to come to me, it was kind of weird and funky, and I went in the other direction, right? I was like, this is not for me. And then through my life experience, I found it anyway. And
Mhm.
I was just open to hear, I was open to hear more. And I got really inspired by personal development. And by
Okay.
doing personal development, like counseling and meditation and doing holistic work, it made its way into my life and then made itself known again, I think, at a stage where I was more able to accept it and then be able to utilize it in my life. I think that spirituality is just so inner powerful.
Yeah.
You don't have to put it on a brochure and do it for other people, right?
Right.
But I do think it absolutely is worth exploring. And I sometimes feel I feel lucky. Like some people have had spirituality since the beginning, and that's beautiful. And then sometimes I feel lucky that I had no, that's funny, it's my mom's name, that I had no one tell me anything about it, because I know people that have had to recover or
Hmm.
have mindset changes
Yeah.
or have to work through the whatever that was so that they could get a place, get a piece for their own spirituality. I
Mhm.
just think spirituality is so individual. And I think no matter where it is for you and how it happens for you, that it's exactly how it's supposed to be. Not everybody's supposed to be standing on a box talking about it. But I do think it's a really major, important part of your life. And I think that it comes even more so as you spend some years on the planet and you try to put you try to put your life together. I
Mhm.
think to dismiss the spiritual aspect of how you think or live um, would be not a disservice, but you certainly, I think at a certain point would feel like something's missing. And there's
Mhm.
people that you hear like there's something missing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, do you know who you are? Like, do you know who you are? Like, who you are is part of your spirit. So it doesn't have to be like a religion or a deity or anything like that. But it's like finding out who you are is really, because people like, I feel like I haven't hit it yet. I feel like I haven't. So for me, I'll leave with this. I have a lot of conversations with myself.
Yeah.
I talk to myself a lot. I talk to God quietly in my brain. I'm like, what's going on here? I have quiet conversations and I continue to ask, like, show me, show me, show me. What am I supposed to do here?
Mhm.
And I think even if you can just get in touch with that for yourself and the conversations that happen, for me, spirit talks to me in my own voice,
Mhm. Okay.
right? Like I hear
Yep.
a message, it's not in a different voice. It's usually, me talking to me,
Okay.
right? So I just say be aware
Yeah.
and be spiritually excited
Love
about
that.
what's in store
Yeah.
and take it seriously. Like there's probably
Mhm.
some messages that are really freaking cool that's going to turn into some amazing things. And at this stage of my life, Wendy, to be honest with you, some of the risks that I take, like a television
Mhm.
channel, people are like, does that take faith? I go, no, it takes faith in faith. Like
Yeah.
I have to have faith
It certainly does.
faith exists or I'm in trouble.
I totally hear you on that
Yeah.
one.
Have
Yes.
faith in faith.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today and being courageous and vulnerable and talking about this because I just think it's an important message to get out there that everybody's journey is unique to themselves. Try and stay open, try and listen, right? And if you're not sure about something, just ask and have that conversation. either with yourself or whatever it is that you believe in, even if it's science. If you're a science-based person, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
follow through with that and ask the questions and get the research and the facts and stuff that you need in order to be able to move forward. So I really loved your journey and your story today. So thank you very much for being on here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And I think that, look at you have a great audience that obviously trusts you and loves you enough to bring people on to talk, right?
Yeah.
So I think when people are, like I said, when I started to have these inklings or what have you, you have to go to a trusted source, which clearly you are.
Oh.
And so, no, really, you have like that woman who did the massage, honestly, I feel like she changed my life because
Oh, good.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely, because I
Yeah.
could talk to someone about it. Or when I got introduced to his name was Ross Laird, and he was able to talk me through some stuff. Is that and that woman, even the woman with the dress on that, I thought, I don't know, not your best choice today, you know? Yeah. By the way, I'm not being mean. I'm just, I like to be comical, but
Yeah.
that woman like made me feel better about myself
Ah,
because
see,
I was
and
having
we
these
need
crazy. I was like, I'm crazy. These are crazy. Who hears voices this crazy? And so we know that we're not crazy because there's a whole bunch of us that are willing to talk now,
yeah.
but you still need someone. You still need someone,
Yes.
I think, to walk you through that is trusted.
Even if it's just for a moment. And they
Mm-hmm.
give you that one little thing that you need to hear or that you
Mm-hmm.
need to feel, and then you
Mm-hmm.
never see them again. Or maybe it's a lifelong person, or it could be somewhere, anywhere in between,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just recognizing that being aware, being intentional, and recognizing that is what's really important,
Mm-hmm.
and accepting and loving whatever part they are meant to play in your life for however short or however long or whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I
Absolutely.
love that. And I love that you had those moments because clearly you wouldn't be you today and having the impact that you're having on the world and on, women empowerment and all the things that you do had you not had those moments.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
So,
right, girlfriend. Thank
yeah,
you.
you're welcome. So, thank you guys for listening. If you have any insights or have any questions, please put them in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Like the episode, subscribe to the channel, and let's continue to explore what spirituality means to you.